Hi, this is Krystalia, and today I'm going to be talking about managing stress with Krystagraphs and other cool techniques as well. Did you know that according to the American Psychology Association, chronic stress that interferes with your ability to function normally over an extended period, is becoming a public health crisis? And according to the Statistic Brain Research Institute, an American Institute of Stress, 77% of people regularly experience physical symptoms caused by stress, and 76% cited money and work as their leading cause of their stress. So today we're going to talk about a few more causes of stress and tips for overcoming that stress. So one of the things I feel is the most important thing, or the biggest cause of stress besides financial struggles, is too much input. Today we have input coming in from all kinds of places: social media, mobile phones that have text on them, voicemail, and email. And amongst, there's probably other things that I'm just not even thinking of. So we tend to get lots and lots of things coming at us, and we're bouncing between them. Sometimes I found myself having 20 or more windows open on my computer with various things coming at me. I even use Skype, so I have text messages coming from Skype and sometimes from Viber and different places. So too much input can be very stressful. Of course, financial struggles, as I mentioned earlier, is a huge cause. And we tend to find ourselves working on our financial issues and getting frustrated because it just doesn't seem to work. So we'll talk about that a bit. And of course, overwhelm overall. So there's other causes of overwhelm, such as, let's say you're a mom who works full time outside of the home. You not only have the stress of getting everything done at home frequently, but you also have the stress of going to work full time during the day. So that can be very stressful with all of those things. And then, of course, depending on how many hours you put in at the office, it can also add more overwhelm, other things going on, relationship issues, and so on. So overwhelm can be huge. Then the next thing is we're going to talk about lack of trust. We don't tend to trust the inner guidance we're getting, and so we make decisions based on ego, and quite often those decisions end up becoming something that causes us even more stress in our lives. Fears of all types: fears that we're going to run out of money, fears that we don't fit in, fears that we're going to lose our job. I mean, there's so many different fears that could be part of our stress levels based on our inability to trust and listen to our inner guidance. And of course, the big one for especially teenagers, but all of us, is trying to fit in with what our bosses expect, what our peers expect, what our spouses or parents expect, and so on. So trying to fit in is really a big one as well. And especially with the teenagers these days, it seems like there's more and more problems going on in that area where they're trying to fit in, and they're getting more and more stressed about being different, even though I think being different is probably the best thing we can do. So here's some things we're going to cover in overcoming stress, which I think is more important here than what the causes are, although eliminating some of those causes certainly can reduce the stress. I forgot to mention that another input is a lot of news, and the negative news we receive is also an issue. So we're going to talk here, though, for overcoming stress, about managing your energy, opening and balancing your energy and getting it flowing, how your thoughts and beliefs are affecting it, how self-love or lack thereof is affecting your stress levels, how to trust your inner knowing, how to overcome some fears, and then we'll also cover some simple things about breathing, stretching, exercise, and meditation that could all just take minutes to do per day. So I don't want to go into details because my programs do that, and my books do that, but just to give you some idea, the root chakra is all about support, as an example. And if you have a blockage there, then the energy is not going to flow from there. So it starts then at the sacral. But think about it this way. If you have a blockage anywhere in your energy field between the root chakra and the God connection one at the top, then that energy has to work harder to go around it, similar to the work that water has to go through in order to go around a rock in the river. So if you had a blockage in your throat chakra, as an example, fear, which is all about your inability to speak up for yourself, then it's going to be harder for the energy to flow from your heart center to your third eye. And so it causes stress on your body immediately because the body's energy flow has to work harder. So a simple way to resolve that, and there is certainly, in my programs I teach how to go much deeper than what I can teach here in this 10 or 15-minute video, but is to open and balance those chakras. And anybody that's on my newsletter, you already have that symbol, and if you're new here to the site and you're seeing this, just make sure that you get on the newsletter and you'll get a free copy of this. But you can simply get the flow going by holding your non-dominant hand against the image, the palm of your hand against the image for 20 seconds. And if you're looking at it here on the monitor, you can hold your hand just a little bit away from the screen. You don't even have to touch the screen, and just absorb the energy up your body, up your arm and into your body, and it literally opens and balances all the energy centers completely in 20 seconds or less. Now the next thing is discovering your core beliefs. What I mean by core beliefs are those underlying beliefs that you're not aware of. So let me just use my biggest example, which was, for me, self-love. I worked 20 years on self-love, self-esteem, and self-worth issues. And yes, I made some progress, but it really wasn't what I was really wanting as far as how I felt about myself. And once I found my core belief, which was God was going to punish me for loving myself, my life changed dramatically using the tools and techniques I'm going to talk about here a bit. So these core beliefs are the not so obvious core beliefs. And this particular Krystagraph you're seeing here is the straight path to core beliefs. And people report that in a 20-minute session with a piece of paper, they can end up getting a page or two of core beliefs that they were unaware they had. And then you can use muscle checking and so on to verify which ones you really need to work with. So I teach this much more detail in my books and e-courses. And this symbol, and even the previous one, is included in all of my books. Then you want to make sure, though, you transform those core beliefs once you know what they are. So you want to bridge from the core belief forward to what you want the belief to be. So let me give you an example. In my example, I ended up, if I was having this struggle with God's going to punish me, that I desire God's love when I love myself, and I deserve God's love when I love myself. God loves me when I love myself. Then I went into, I desire to love myself, I deserve to love myself, and so on. Now, I would recommend between 50 and 70 affirmations just for that particular thing, because I would work on self-esteem, self-love, self-worth, and so on. The other key to changing core beliefs, or any beliefs, is making sure the words are positive. Let me just give you 2 examples. I hear a lot of people out there teaching that I love myself unconditionally. The subconscious mind hears the word conditional in that, and we're programming ourselves, most of us are, to love ourselves conditionally when we say that statement. So if you change it to I love myself totally and completely, it's far more positive and doesn't give the subconscious mind an opportunity to look at a word that's not supportive. Another one is money comes to me easily and effortlessly. And effort means it's going to take a lot of work for most of us. And because of that, if you change it to money comes to me easily and frequently, or easily and readily, it removes the ability for the subconscious mind to take that statement incorrectly. Now, there are people that can use those negative words and get away with it, but you don't know for sure whether you're going to or not. So why not make them positive words so you're sure that your subconscious mind is not going to misinterpret? Now, self-love is one of the biggest keys here for getting over your stress, because once you start to love yourself, you end up being able to then nurture who you are and accept that you are different, which guess what? We are all different. And the sooner we start to recognize and love ourselves for our differences, the sooner we will let go of a lot of stress. That whole idea of fitting in and all of that, the whole idea of self-sacrifice and so on needs to go away and start loving ourselves. So I ask you to, if you get my book, Power Symbols for Self-Love, that you start to put this symbol in areas to remind you to love yourself totally. And also make a commitment today that you're going to do one nurturing thing every day for yourself. Maybe it's a walk in nature, maybe it's taking care of having a nice warm bath, or a moment to sit and read something you really want to read, and so on. And set aside that time. Let your family know. Also, if you're a mom and you've got a lot of busy things, ask some of the family members to take on some of those instead of you doing them all. Another key, like I mentioned, is trusting your inner knowing. Again, this is the love and trust symbol. It's again included in all of my books and materials, all of my programs and so on. And this is about connecting to source and trusting the inner guidance you're getting. And I can tell you, sometimes it's difficult to learn how to trust your inner guidance, but when you start taking that inner guidance that sometimes can seem like the most outlandish step to take, or your ego saying, no, that's not the right thing, that's really the tip that you want to know, that that is something you should trust as your inner knowing. And yeah, it's not always the most pleasant, no matter which way you go, but it's all about trusting and taking the next step that you're guided to do, because when you trust, even if it isn't the way you wanted it to go after trusting, you typically have some good lessons in there that were necessary for you to really grow and get to the next experience, or the best next step. Again, it's key to overcome those fears as well. So I don't have time today to have you walk through a whole overcoming fears, but this particular Krystagraph is used to help you overcome fears easily, and you quickly put them into the center of the image and visualize them so surrounded in love they can't stay there long enough, or stay in that love energy, I guess is what I want to say, and so they work to escape and so on. So there's a visualization that goes with this. But when you can overcome those fears, when you can move beyond them, it's amazing what will happen in your life when you start to trust and you start to let go of all the fears that happen in our lives. Fears about losing our job, as an example, and where the money's going to come from and so on, are really big things to overcome sometimes for people. But when you do that and you start to surrender, miracles happen. So the trusting and surrendering, along with letting go of the things you fear the most, it's amazing what will happen when you do that, and your life will be far less stressful. Now here's a few other tips I want to share real quickly before we end this video today, and that is breathing. Breathing is an important thing, and even if you set an alarm and once an hour you take for 1 minute and just breathe in deeply through your mouth, hold it for a few seconds and then let it out, and then do that several times for that minute. So, breathe into maybe a count of 8, hold it for another count of 4, and then let it out for a count of 8. Or, use the count that works for you. Don't stress yourself out trying to breathe exactly. Another thing that's real important is to find some stretching exercises that are simple while you're sitting at your desk or whatever you're doing, to just take a moment to stretch, maybe once an hour as well. Maybe do it while you're doing your breathing exercises. There's a great book called Stretching by Bob Anderson that's got stretching exercises for all kinds of things. Of course, exercise is really key as well. Especially for me, getting out in nature is a great way to get exercise and connect with nature, which releases a heck of a lot of stress for me. But some kind of exercise every day is really good, or every few days, just so that you're getting your body moving, because body moving will let go of a lot of stress. And then I highly recommend that you meditate. I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes or more. And meditation can let go of so much stress, and your inner guidance and so on can be much deeper when you do that. So you might even meditate with the chakra opening symbol and the love and trust symbol while you're doing that, or even the self love symbol.